How's it going, guys? Give it just a minute or so here and let a couple of people see if I can give it a chance for a few people to get on here. Or maybe nobody will get on. I'm trying a little bit different setup this time with this live video. Looks like we got a couple of people chiming in here. I'm going to actually see if I can pull up the live stream while it's going on my iPad as well. On my iPad. Ooh, a little bit of a delay there. Sorry about that. All right, now I'm thinking I can kind of use my iPad as a little bit of a monitor. Can you guys hear me okay? Chris, how's it going, my friend? Can you hear me all right? I'm trying a little bit different sound setup here. Andrea, how are you? From Australia, wow. I see George is on from Southwest Idaho Overlanding. I'm sure a lot of you guys know who he is from my last videos. Sean, Linda, Angie, Tristan, how's it going, my friend? Oh, these are going by so fast. Wow. Yeah, it's good to see so many of you guys. Hopefully you're all staying healthy and doing well out there in the midst of all of the madness that's been going on. Good. I see some good evenings and some good mornings. Michael Scott from Texas, how's it going? From Kentucky, Big John. George, Southwest Idaho Overlanding, looks like he just got back from a day trip, so it's probably going to be a pretty cool video out on that. So I should be still in for a good live stream. I've got myself a double dose of hints here going on. What I wanted to do, and we'll see, sometimes the comments go by so fast I can't really do it. But what I wanted to do was answer a couple of questions, maybe have a little bit of a conversation with you guys. Man, a lot of Texas here. Angie from North Texas. Eric, how's it going, brother? Nebraska here. Damn. Tin Bender, howdy, stranger. Anyway, I just thought I'd give you guys a couple of updates. It's Saturday night here, which usually isn't a fantastic night to be like going live on YouTube or anything like that. But I don't know if you guys are kind of following what's going on with the coronavirus, but I have the good fortune, or actually I'm being sarcastic about that, I have the good fortune of living in a state that's just kind of been in a perpetual state of lockdown. So right now we again just entered a 2-week freeze. So all of our restaurants are closed down, all of our bars. So there's not really much that anybody can be out doing. So I thought maybe some folks would be at home bored and might enjoy hanging out for a little bit. I know this whole coronavirus thing has been, it's actually been a little bit of a bummer for me, as you guys know that have been watching my channel for a while. I'm not like a super social guy. I'm pretty content to explore out in the woods. I enjoy that by myself, but I do like people, and with all the lockdowns and everything, it really has kind of cut down the amount of human interaction I think a lot of us are getting. So for me, Instagram, YouTube has been kind of the saving grace. It's kept me kind of connected to you guys, but it's getting kind of increasingly frustrating to me, especially the way I live my life. I enjoy like being able to have the option of go out and eat and things like that. So it's a little bit, there's Jim Gundog. Howdy, my friend from Maryland. I bet you're sitting down and eating something pretty good right now. Well, maybe not. You're a couple hours ahead of me. You might be having dessert right now. So if everybody doesn't follow Gundog 4314, my buddy, he's does all the MRE tasting meals and everything. So I always enjoy that. And then he posts all the delicious food pictures on Instagram. I just my mouth started watering. Jim, I saw your post on that shaved beef Philly cheesesteak with the cheese whiz. I always love the touches you put on stuff. So anyway, I got a little bit of a list of stuff here that I wanted to go over with you guys. One question that I get a ton of, and I've stayed away from really talking about it for a long time for a couple of reasons, but the question is, a lot of people ask me, and sometimes it's other people who are getting into YouTube, and sometimes it's just people who are curious, but a lot of people ask me about how I make money or don't make money on YouTube, or kind of how sponsorships work or things like that. So I thought I would just talk to you guys a little bit about this, because also I've got some questions about recently. As all you guys know, or hopefully you all know, I put a PayPal donate button link down in the description of my videos, and what that allows people to do who want to make a monetary contribution to my channel is they can just click on that PayPal donate button. It keeps me out of the whole Patreon world where I have to worry. It's interesting, a lot of the different social media platforms obviously are very sensitive about content, and so I opted to just kind of go the simple route, use the PayPal donate button. That allows people to make a one-time contribution or a recurring contribution. But this kind of ties into what I wanted to talk about a little bit. I want to get a chance to tell you guys a little bit how all this works for me on YouTube. So the basic financial model for me on YouTube, and understand there's some of YouTube's guidelines are prohibit getting very specific about some of the financial ramifications for working with YouTube. But basically for me, how it works is those ads that you guys see on my video, I get a share of the revenue generated from those ads. So I know some of you guys that are kind of irritating to you, but those do help support me and help support the channel and all the effort that I go into there. Now, so for me, that's really the only monetary gain that I get. And understand that YouTube's algorithms and everything are really, they're subject to change all of the time. So that revenue that I earn from YouTube is really sporadic. It can vary widely, and without getting too specific, and hopefully to keep myself out of trouble with YouTube, but basically, like, say for a channel similar to mine with roughly the amount of views that I have, you could probably estimate somewhere in a range of, like, say $200 to $900 a month ad revenue coming from YouTube. Now, the problem with that is it's generally, it kind of bounces all over the board. Like, one month it could be closer to the bottom of the end of that spectrum, and one month it could be closer to the higher end of that spectrum. But probably for most people with similar sized channels to me, I would guess that they're probably averaging somewhere in that $400 or $500 a month range, somewhere in there. So that's one component. So for me, that's really the only monetary component there is. As far as sponsorships go, there's a lot of different ways that people can go with sponsorships. And don't get me wrong, I get a ton of offers from a lot of really great companies out there. But how I've handled sponsorships is I've really only worked with companies. Well, let me back up a little bit. So as far as sponsorships go, there's really kind of two ways that you can work sponsorships. One way is paid sponsorships, and that's where oftentimes a company will, sometimes you don't even necessarily have to use their product, but a company will talk to you about doing paid placement in your video. So usually that's somewhere along the lines of they'll agree to a certain price per video, and then let's just say, hypothetically speaking, it's a game app, for example. That's a really common one. I get a lot of those offers from some type of a gaming app. And usually what they'll do is they'll say, here's the dollar amount that we'll give you for every 30-second kind of spiel on our app that you give within the frame or within the context of your video. So in essence, basically take some time out of the video to talk about their app. So that's one thing, and sometimes they'll get a little bit more specific. They'll want to see it like at the beginning of the video or the beginning and the end. So that's one kind of bucket of sponsorships. Those are paid sponsorships. They don't necessarily involve you using the product, although that's usually preferable. But a lot of those are everything from like, and nobody get offended here, but they're, I mean, they're a lot of, I get everything from like anti-hair loss stuff, which maybe I might eventually need here. And I mean, they can be crazy stuff. They're energy drinks, they're all kinds of stuff like that. So that's one thing, is paid sponsorship. So another route is, there's a lot of companies out there that want to just give you their gear and then have you kind of use their gear, or a lot of times when it comes to gear sponsorships, what companies want to do is they want to send you a piece of gear, they want you to do a gear review video on it. So how I've approached this thing is, I really haven't done any of those things. Like I haven't accepted any paid sponsorships. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about this, but why I don't accept those paid sponsorships is because each one of those obviously comes with a very specific set of guidelines or rules, right? And what I really don't want to do is, I really don't want to be spending my time creating content about products and things like that. Now, it can be very financially lucrative for creators out there, but for me, I feel like that would be too disruptive to my content, right? And most of the time it doesn't really fit in with what I do, and I don't have any particular connection or passion for the product. So for the most part, those type of paid sponsorships, I just don't feel like are a good fit for my channel. What I've tried to do is, I've tried to incorporate things that are able to benefit me, but also fit in and don't disrupt too much, or maybe a different way to say that, are the least disruptive to the content that I create. So now let's talk about the gear review thing. So the gear review thing, again, is not super attractive to me. The idea that a company will just send me a free piece of gear and for me to do a review video on it, again, it's not really something that, I'm not a gear reviewer channel. And so I, generally speaking, don't do that. In fact, the only time that I ever accept a piece of gear in exchange for doing some coverage or some kind of a video of it is when it's a piece of gear that I'm already looking for or that I really want. In fact, sometimes what I'll do is I'll do research looking for a certain piece of gear. Like, I'll give you guys an example of this. A while back, I think it was about a year ago, I got that Blackfire portable power station, which is actually sitting in my back room charging right now, getting ready to go out on this trip. So I was actually looking at all of those kind of size portable power stations, and there were some things about the Blackfire one that I really like. So I connected with them. They offered to send me one in exchange for doing a gear review video. So that's, generally speaking, how that works. And I'll be proactive about that. If there's a piece of gear that I want, I'll shoot them an email and see if they're open or interested to it. So this brings me around full circle to what I really wanted to tell you guys is, a lot of you guys hear me, you see me doing stuff with the guys up at Lolo Overland, you hear me talking about them a lot. So this brings me to the kinds of sponsorships that I do. And I really only have two sponsorships like this. And one is sort of a sponsorship relationship, I guess you could call it that, with Lolo Overland Outfitters and with Free Spirit Recreation. So the nature of my relationship with both of those companies is the same thing. With Free Spirit Recreation, it started about 3 years ago. I saw their products at an outdoor show. I had been using CVT tents. I hadn't, at the time, I wasn't really happy with the CVT products. They were pretty limited in scope. And at the time, there was basically just the design of them was kind of really this design that we had all been using for rooftop tents for a long time. And I ran into Free Spirit Recreation, and they had some newer, different designs and some innovative things. So I actually pursued them, and it took a while to secure that relationship, but it's been a really good relationship. And basically that relationship, the way that works is I use their products and they provide me with their products. And it's that simple. I don't receive any money from them. I don't have any contractual obligation to say good things about their products or anything like that. They just provide me with the products, and the value for them is that you guys get to see me using those products, and you guys get to see how they perform because I'm in them all the time in my videos. So that brings me to the other thing, which is my other sponsor relationship, which is Lolo Overland. And that has been a fantastic relationship as well. So let me go back a little bit to Free Spirit real quick, because I do want to say something. So another thing that's really important to me in these relationships is, like, these people have to be my team, right? They have to be people that I like. They have to be people that we get along together and everything. For me, like, I just don't have enough time in life to spend with people that I don't enjoy. So the absolute critical thing about all of the people that I'm going to work with on any kind of a professional level is they're going to be good people. We're going to get along well. We're going to like some of the same things. They're going to be passionate about what I do, and I'm going to be passionate about what they do. Like, those are all the ingredients that make it worthwhile. So the crew over at Free Spirit Free Spirit Recreation, Casey, Tim, the owners, Renee, Tim, the whole crew over there, Christina, the marketing person that I work with. I mean, they're just all super solid people. Cheyenne, I go in there, I know all of them. We drink coffee together. We give each other a hard time. We hang out together. It's good experience. So my other crew that I work with is Lolo Overland, as you guys know. So Josh has got the shop up in Portland, and he's put together a pretty good team up there. And that's the same kind of a relationship. Josh does work on my vehicle. Sometimes I buy stuff from him. Sometimes he gives me discounts on gear. Sometimes he gives me gear. Sometimes he installs stuff for free, and I pay for this stuff. And so it's just kind of a combination of things. But basically, he's my go-to for gear. And the reason why those relationships work for me is because they allow me to get the stuff that I need to do my trips at a reduced cost, or in some cases at no cost at all. So that's the value to me in those kind of relationships. And honestly, that's the most important thing. So now, having said all of that, what I really wanted you guys to understand is that I don't have any desire to, I don't want to corporatize my channel. I do need some revenue off of it. I do need it to compensate me for not necessarily my time, but I do need to at least offset the cost of some of these cameras and gimbals and drones and things like that. Great example, I had a drone for about 1.5 years, and on one of my last trips, it got caught in a gust of wind, flew into a tree. The tree ticked the propeller, and it hit the ground and broke off one of the rotor arms. Very expensive repair to the drone. So ultimately I ended up just buying another one. But so at the end of the day, I do need that YouTube ad revenue, and I do appreciate every contribution you guys make to those PayPal donate links down there. And I think between those two things, I'm really content to just keep running my channel the way it is. Between Free Spirit and Lolo Overland, they keep me in for the most part, the gear that I need and everything. And then a little bit of ad revenue and a little bit of monetary contributions from you guys. And man, I'm good to go. I'm happy out there doing my thing. So I guess the big thing in all that is it's really important to me to try to stay independent, to keep my content pure, to keep what drives me to explore out there is the history, the adventure. I love the challenge of being solo out there. I love, I'm getting older all the time, but I got a few good years left in me, and I love pushing myself. I love pushing against the environment. I love that challenge of it just being me and my gear and my vehicle out there. I love that dynamic of knowing that it's up to me to get through whatever I come up against out there. And that's what I want to concentrate on. I don't want to get tied up in a bunch of corporate stuff and everything. So there's other little things that come up. I'm not going to say too much about this, but because YouTube's fairly sensitive about it. But as you guys know, I'm a shooter. I enjoy shooting. I'm not very good at it, but I enjoy shooting. I enjoy guns. I believe in our private law-abiding citizens owning guns. Recently teamed up with a company called Faxon, and I'm working on the T&E of one of their first products that I got in my hands right now. Did a video out there on you guys, and then I just got done. Maybe I'll take a risk of sneaking a little peek here for you guys on that. So I just got it all fixed up, and soon I'll have a video coming out on that. So one thing I did want to say is I wanted to say thank you to all of the companies and all of the people that do support me. That is just absolutely huge. All right, I feel like I'm all jacked up on caffeine. I've been talking a lot, so. Now, I'm not sponsored by these guys, but I've been addicted to these hints this year. It's kind of a new thing. So what else we got on the list here? Hi, Rebecca, Keith. See some of the people that are on there. Oh, so Two Bananas Adventures just asked, do I have a 9-to-5 job? I absolutely do have a 9-to-5 job. Yes, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, with the ad revenue and the sponsorships that I have, I still go way upside down off of my outdoor adventures and that type of thing. So I do have a 9-to-5 job that pays my basic bills and also supplements the costs of running my YouTube channel. So for you guys that are interested, I'm an urban planner. I'm a land use planner. So I do kind of short-term and long-term land use planning. And at times that's a pretty actually demanding job. I love it, but at times it is kind of demanding. Okay, so Logan on here just asked, what are my thoughts on COVID-19? So let me, oh gosh, guys. So I want to be careful about this because I absolutely feel for anybody who has been impacted adversely by the virus or or has had a loved one or somebody seriously injured or killed by it. How I feel at this point about it is I feel like, now keep in mind that I live on the West Coast, and I think Oregon, Washington, and California are three of the states that have reacted the strongest to the virus. So in those three states, basically, we've been on some form of lockdown going all the way back since March. And how I honestly feel about it, and I've done a significant amount of research on it, but how I feel about it is I honestly feel like that is a very extreme overreaction to it. I feel like the more data that we get, what we're seeing the survivability rate of it higher and higher and higher. In fact, I think at this point, basically all the data is showing that, I mean, really, I think almost without exception, no one is being seriously injured or dying from this disease, from COVID-19, the disease caused by the novel coronavirus, this newest form of the coronavirus. The people who are dying are people who are either very old and in most cases also have significant comorbidities, other serious health conditions. So my personal feelings are, I think the lockdowns are BS. I don't think they're effective. I don't think there's any data that shows that they're making a difference. You look at the states and the countries that did do lockdowns and you superimpose the dates when they did the lockdowns over the up and down trends and the number of daily cases in the virus, and you really can not find any correlation that the lockdowns are really having any significant effect. This is my opinion. So personally, I think in this case, the cure that we're prescribing in the form of all these restrictions on people's civil liberties it's not worth the cure is worse than the disease, in my opinion, at this point. Now, having said all that, again, I want to tell you guys, I have a grandmother who I love very much, who's very elderly. She's 95 years old now, and she's in a nursing home, and I do worry for her. But my personal opinion is that the rest of the world, the young, the healthy, the mobile, like those people need to be living their lives, being productive, contributing to the economy, and we need to protect those people that are at risk. So my personal opinion, it's time to get rid of the mask mandates. It's time to get rid of the lockdowns. It's time to return to normal behavior. Now, I'm going to go a step further and tell you guys that I also do not believe that most of the orders, most of the restrictions have been done under executive orders by state governors. And in most cases, I do not believe they're constitutional. I think the restrictions on travel, the state government level determining which businesses are essential and non-essential, I think a lot of those things are very, very, if they're not outright unconstitutional, they're definitely pushing the boundaries of it. So sorry about that. That was a long answer, but yeah, I see a lot of lockdowns are BS. Yeah, and Rebecca, I see a comment from Rebecca on there, and Rebecca saying the quality of life, not how long we live. And that's one of the things that's really concerning to me is all of, okay, I'm not going to say all of, but I think it's really funny. A friend of mine calls them the branch Covidians, the people that are like really militant about the lockdowns and everything. I just think that's hilarious. So all of the branch Covidians, I think, are driven by their fear of the virus and or they're motivated politically, right? So, but to Rebecca's point about living life, like I think a lot of people, and I hear the same thing about guns, but this whole argument for all these restrictions is in large part, all of these people operate on the assumption that there's no cost to that, right? That there's no downside to that. It's this standard argument. And I hear people use this argument like with guns and things like that. Like they'll say, well, if we can ban assault rifles, if that saves even one life over the course of a year, isn't that worth it? Or if it saves 10 lives, isn't that worth it? How I feel personally, and I'm willing to put my life on the line for this as well. I lump myself in this category, and I'm willing to put and willing to be at risk for this. How I feel is there is a price for freedom. I understand that. There's risks involved with allowing people to make choices, with allowing people to own things like firearms and things like that. So personally, I feel like I don't feel like it's justified. I don't feel like the restrictions really do anything. And I feel like the costs of it in the long run, the depression, the alcoholism, the kids. I was recently reading a report on how it's affecting kids like preteens and the suicide rates and the thoughts of suicide. The businesses, I have personal friends who, I have a really good friend who's ran a successful business here for, I want to say almost 20 years ago, he opened this business. And just 2 weeks ago, when they announced this latest lockdown in Oregon, he shut his doors forever. He's basically been feeding the business since March, pouring money into it to keep his employees working, to keep his handful of employees working, keep the doors open, and he just finally lost it. And to me, that's heartbreaking. Like, and to what? Like, how many lives have we saved by this? So anyway, I can go on and on about that forever. Yeah, and I see a couple of people commenting about like firearms, and you also have to look at how many lives do they save, right? So sure, there's a few people, there's bad people that do bad things with guns. Don't take my guns because idiots and criminals do bad things with their guns. But the other thing they do is they do defend a lot of good people's lives. So if you take that out of the picture, how many of those people are going to die too? So yeah, I know it's contentious. I think it'll be interesting to see what unfolds of all of this tension in coming months. But I think the lockdowns, the restrictions, they got to go. Like it's not working. And so I'm going to tell you guys something. I'm actually going to be completely honest with you guys, and I'm going to tell you what I get infuriated about a lot of stuff. I wonder about a lot of things. I get infuriated about restrictions, the lockdowns. I get infuriated about the how the elections happened and were treated this year. And I don't like to get political on my channel or anything like that. It is my personal opinion that we do not elect presidents anymore. We elect platforms, and that's why we get the caliber of people that we get running for president, because that's not really the important thing. I'm not saying that's not the important thing to me, but I'm saying that in our system, it's not about the president anymore. It's about the platform. So you have one side basically fighting to put whoever in that chair that they can get elected. You really have both sides doing that. So at the end of the day, I don't get too wrapped around the axle about who the president is. I vote for a platform. I support a platform. I support a platform that, for the most part, what I want is I want government to be shrinking, not growing. I want independence for people. I want freedom. I want the ability to make choices. I want to live a life where I get to make choices about what I do with my life, and I'm willing to suffer the consequences of those choices when I make bad choices. That's the kind of world that I want to live in. I want to live in a world where I have a right to defend myself. I want to live in a world where I take personal responsibility for my own safety, my own well-being, all of those types of things. So, see, you guys got me all fired up, and I don't even know where I was going with that. Somebody asked me if I have a stash of food and essentials in the wilderness. Well, I would, I think you guys know the answer to that. I know you guys are awesome. I'm just watching comments here scroll about, people being patriots, and it makes my heart hurt that has become almost a bad word with so many people. Oh, I know where I was going with my whole political rant. So here's the thing. I was telling you guys that I'm upset about lockdowns. I'm upset anytime I hear about new gun control restrictions and everything come through. But here's the thing that I'm the most upset about in all of this. Like, I cannot believe, and this is what hurts me the most, is the fact that when our government started locking us down back in March, April, May, back in those months, nobody questioned it. Nobody, or at least nobody very vocally questioned it. And here we are now, 8 months later. Initially, it was supposed to be something they were going to do to see if they could flatten the curve. Here we are 8 months later. So here's the thing that hurts, and here's the thing that worries me that I just don't know if we're going to be able to overcome. That is the idea that right now, I think 50% of the people in our country are comfortable depending on the government for their safety, depending on the government for their security, depending on the government to make decisions about their personal health, depending on the government to level the playing field when it comes to earnings and wealth. And that's the thing that disturbs me the most, because if it's a government problem, we can fix that. But I think it's a people problem. And what worries me is the group of people, like most of you that I can see in my comments, the group of us, the group of people that live in rural areas, the group of people that celebrate independence and are risk takers and all of that, that group of people I feel like is getting smaller, and the other group of people is going bigger. And to be honest with you guys, I don't know how that ship gets right, short of something major happening. So anyway, that's all I'll say about that. But so somebody just asked me the question, would I get the COVID vaccine? So I hate the term anti-vaxxer, and but I'm going to tell you guys, I'm not into the flu vaccine. I don't generally get the flu shot. I'm not going to get the COVID shot. I'm not worried about COVID. I'm relatively healthy. I do have a underlying condition, and if that's what kills me, that's what kills me. I'm willing to take my risk with that. So no, I'm not a big vaccine guy. Actually, let me rephrase that. That's not true. What I do is I weigh the risk versus the reward. Like, the flu shot has such a low efficacy, and I rarely ever get the flu. So it's just not, why would I put something in my body that's going to have that little effect on my livelihood or my health or my life, right? I generally maybe get a cold or a flu at some point during the winter, and most of the time it's really mild and and it doesn't really affect me too much. So, and then the thing with the COVID thing is, like I told you guys, I mean, I'm not finding any data out there right now to indicate that I have anything to worry about. Oh, I see my friend Andrea is not getting the vaccine either. You go, girl. Let's see, what other questions do we have out here? Yeah, the real Americans. Yeah, and that somebody else was bringing up a point about, rolling out this vaccine. Little Paw, man, how are you, buddy? Yeah, that's the other thing, is they're rolling it out really fast, and I just honestly don't think that, all the time we find adverse effects with medication. And so there's got to be an upside, right? Like, if I really was worried about dying from it, maybe it would be worth the risk to get the vaccine, but I just don't see that's the situation. Mizat, having been in the military, they shot you up with so many shots. What is one more? Yeah, I guess that's one way of looking at it. Arizona trip soon. Luke is asking about. It's been a long time since I've been down to Arizona. I guess maybe I actually had some trips planned for down into southern Nevada, and maybe was even going to tip over into Arizona a little bit. But with the stupid COVID restrictions and everything, like it just seemed like it was going to be a huge pain in the ass to travel and get hotel rooms and find restaurants to eat in and everything. And so I've just been kind of going out in the woods and doing my usual stuff. Man, I'm seeing some guys commenting about going down to Arizona. Hey, you hit me up, send me a message on Instagram. That's the best way to direct message me on Instagram. Man, if I know some guys down there and there's some people I can connect up with or that can help me kind of find some cool areas to explore, you guys know what I like. I love finding old historic ruins and things like that. And so, yeah, man, I mean, a lot of times that's what really helps me make a trip a long ways like that is if I've got some contacts there that maybe I go hang out with, maybe we go out and camp together or do some exploring together. But more than anything, if you guys can kind of help me identify some good places to go where I can find some cool history, awesome. Yeah, man, message me. All right, so let me look at my list here so I don't forget anything important. Oh, yeah, and I'm sure I'll say this again, but before I forget, I know I said this at the beginning before a lot of you guys were on here, but man, I just hope you guys have a good holiday season. And I love the wintertime. I love getting out, overlanding and doing the thing in the wintertime. There's just even less people. There's some areas that I can go where in the summertime there's a few people out there, but in the wintertime there's no one out there. So some of you guys will remember that I used to do a little bit more kind of survivalist, bushcraft, even a little bit kind of prepping related content. And it's no secret that I'm pretty independent. Those are all important aspects of my life. So I was curious if, now I've got a couple of questions for you guys. I was curious if any of you would be interested in like, seeing a few more of those videos. Like I haven't done a contents video on my inch pack or my bug out bag. It probably hasn't changed a lot since the last one, but I think it's actually been a couple of years since I've done a bug out bag or an inch pack video. So let me know if that's something that you guys would like to see. Oh man, I know one thing that I was thinking about. So another little secret on the personal side is one of my guilty pleasures is I love post-apocalyptic fiction. Like I love, books like 99 Days and all those kind of like post-apocalypse dystopian world kind of books. So, but I've burned through a bunch of them. I love reading them in the wintertime up in my rooftop tent when I'm out in the snow and it gets dark early. So I wanted to ask you guys if you know, number one, of any good kind of dystopian, post-apocalypse, post-societal collapse kind of books. Hit me up with any recommendations there. And then the other thing is, too, anything you guys have found along those lines, like on Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything like that. So I'm always looking for the most part, mostly what I read is I read local history books and things like that. But when I want something just to escape into, I love post-apocalypse fiction. As some of you, I'm sure, probably could have guessed. So let's do some updates here. So wanted to let you guys know a couple of things coming up. One is my boys up at Lolo Overland are, rumor has it, Josh told me, are getting very, very close with Grandpa's truck. So I'm super excited about that. It's actually been up there a couple of weeks. It's turned into a little bit longer process. And again, part of this I'm going to blame on COVID, but because the supply chain's been running behind on a lot of stuff. I'm going to see if for any of you guys that haven't seen it, see if I can get back here to a picture on my grandpa's truck. All right. So can you guys see that? So that was my grandpa's truck. And for any of you that don't know, my grandfather and my dad and my uncle Kip were obviously my earlier influences in the outdoors. And that was the last truck that my grandpa got. And he loved that truck. He drove that truck right up until he lost his driver's license. He used to take my grandma on a Sunday drive every Sunday up until the time that he lost his driver's license that he would load grandma on that truck and they would go out for a drive in the backcountry out near where they live. So my grandfather was just an amazing man. He died a couple of years ago now, and that was a huge, huge loss for me. And I ended up with his truck, and I've just been kind of using it as my shooting truck. But I was visiting with Josh and Daniel and guys over there at Lolo, and they're like, man, let's just fix that thing up. So I know a couple of the things that are being done to it, but I kind of told Josh, man, this is what I want to do with the truck. You do what you think that it needs. And so I'm really, really excited. I think the last thing that we're waiting on is, I believe it's with the tires. We're waiting for a set of tires to come in for it. So really excited about that. Next week, actually in just a couple of days, I'm leaving Josh and I going on Josh and Lolo Overland, and hopefully Daniel's going to be able to come along. We're doing like a 4 or 5 day trip, and we're going to go into some of the most remote country in the state, just godforsaken rough country. We'll go all the way down into Nevada, and then we'll basically jump off of a paved road in Nevada, and then we'll traverse probably almost 200 miles of country without ever touching pavement. I've got a whole series of potential historic spots mapped out on that. It's going to be cold. It's going to be snowy. The roads are going to be rough. And it might just be Josh and I and our Jeeps out there across that country. So I'm really excited about this trip. I've been looking forward to it for a long time. And then the cool thing is my tires are supposed to be in next week. So by the time we get back from the trip, I'll get to go pick up Grandpa's truck. And was hoping to get it just a little bit earlier. I want to do some fun kind of old school camping videos for you guys. For years, I had a old Chevy 1978 short white box pickup truck, and how I went camping was I threw my gear in the back of that pickup truck and just had a couple of boxes and bags and went out. So I really want to do some kind of old school camping videos, relive some of those experiences before I get too old and soft to want to be that cold and uncomfortable. But one of the things that why I'm really excited about doing that is I get so many people ask questions about, or not necessarily questions, but comments. So many people will be like, hey, what's up, Coyote Works? I've got a Jeep I'm working on fixing up, and I can't wait until I get the lift kit and everything in it so I can start going out and doing the stuff that you do. And that always makes me feel bad when I hear that, because I always feel like, man, just get in whatever you have and drive out in the backcountry and start enjoying yourself. Like whatever you've got, like you just don't need that much. Like a sleeping bag, a tent, a $79 dome tent from REI or whatever, and a sleeping bag, a food box. I remember for the longest time, I didn't even take a chair or a table with me. I always bushcrafted something up wherever I was out there. If I was out in the desert, it might be a rock or something like that. If I was up in the forest, I'd make some kind of a chair out of a stump or a tree or something like that. So really excited to get Grandpa's truck back. Really excited for this trip with Josh. Really excited about my relationship with Facts and Firearms. I've got some interesting stuff in the works there. We're starting to kind of talk about the potential of maybe doing a signature firearm, Coyote Works signature firearm. There's a certain style of one that I've been wanting to design for a long time, and it looks like we might be able to work together on that too. I just thought I'd show you guys this because this is pretty cool. Here's a picture of my grandpa and my dad. So I come from a long line of outdoorsmen. Here's you guys are gonna, oh man, I was a handsome devil back then. Look at it. Well, Look at that. That's me and my grandpa. Look at that handful of baldies. I think that was Christmas morning one year, but more importantly, look at that mullet I had. Damn, I still have that shotgun. That shotgun that I'm holding in that picture was my grandpa's first, nicest shotgun. It was a Browning over and under, custom Browning over and under. I should show you guys that shotgun in one of my videos or something. But that's how I grew up. And so I'm really excited to kind of carry on the tradition. You're not going to be able to see this, but my grandpa actually made one of the first rooftop tents ever. So there we go. So it's a little hard to see in the picture, but he actually made a canvas tent on the back of a trailer. So technically it wasn't a rooftop tent. It was more of a jumping jack tent. Look at all those ducks. I think that's my grandpa and my Uncle Sheldon in there. There's me and my grandpa. That was when my grandpa was about 90. Anyway, I like to look at those pictures. It keeps the keeps the memories alive. So let's see, what else do I have on here? You guys got some questions for me? Oh, there's PDX Trailer Guy. How's it going, man? Been watching him gallivanting all over the Ocho's in his Jeep while I'm at the office. He's retired now. My grandpa looks like Tommy Lee Jones. Oh, back behind me, that's the DJI gimbal. So Pat's asking me, do I ever camp along the Oregon coast? And I do. It's been a long time since I have. I have before, but I like the open country, man. I like the Ocho Mountains, the pine forest of the Ochos, and I like the open country. It is beautiful over on the Oregon coast and up in the Cascades, but lots of O's about Jeep fire insurance. Oh, lots of questions about Jeep fire insurance. Okay. Man, I'm never going to live that one down, am I? So Jeep fire insurance. So as most of you know, a couple of years ago, my last Jeep before this one caught on fire on me when I was on an overland trip out there. So here's what I learned from that experience. Here's the important thing that you guys should know. Really, anyone who has an overlanding vehicle or who loads up their vehicle to go camping, this is what you need to know. So your standard insurance in most cases, this was the case with mine, and I think it's basically, from what I understand, how all basic auto policies work, is they insure your vehicle. In most basic auto insurance policies, there is no coverage for what they call, or very little coverage for what they call non-factory add-ons and accessories, right? So all of the things that you put on your vehicle, those badass front and rear bumpers, that Warn Xeon 10S winch, that Rhino Rack roof rack, or that front runner roof rack, that rooftop tent, all of those jerry can carriers, that handyman jack that you bolt on there. How about your 35-inch tires or your 285/75/17 and your black Rhino wheels? None of that stuff is, well, like my insurance when my Jeep caught on fire had $1,000 of coverage for non-factory add-ons and accessories in it. So here's the thing. This is what, man, you guys should pay me a lot of money for this, because this cost me a lot of money to learn this. So after my Jeep caught on fire, and the insurance company, obviously they covered the price of the vehicle, but not any of the other stuff on it or in it. So afterwards, when I went to see my insurance agent and talk about it, so I was able to add coverage to my Jeep. So right now I have about $18,000 of additional coverage on it, specifically for non-factory add-ons and accessories that I pay about $6 a month for. So here's the thing. If you go camping, if you fix up your rig, you should absolutely ask your insurance agent, if you can add that supplemental coverage to it. That supplemental coverage would have, thank God a bunch of you guys made a bunch of contributions to help me get back up and running. But even with everything that you guys did for me, that still cost me out of pocket about $9,000 or $10,000 or something. So it was pretty crazy. But let's see, what else do we have going on here? Done everything around. Oh yeah, George is asking. Maybe he's not asking me. He's asking somebody else when they're going to be in that area. I want to do another trip with you, George. That I still want to do. Well, there's a couple of things, and you're probably going to beat me to it. But I want to run that old Ione Highway. For those of you guys that don't know, Ione is the Idaho, Oregon, Nevada highway. It's an old historic highway that I've been wanting to run the old route with that and find it, and a lot of the old roadside things. Jim Walsh is late to the party. Sorry, man. All right, guys. That's pretty much everything that I had. Told you about the Roland Special build, and looking. That's been a fun little project. My first kind of trick, Gucci Glock kind of handgun that based off of the Faxon FX19. I'm excited about that just because it's something new and different. I've really only ever shot stock. Well, I was going to say stock handguns, but actually all of my guns have always been stock. Truck should be back soon. The trip with Josh coming up. Yeah, so Mark Jackson is on here asking about New Mexico. I would love to do some runs through the South down there. I would say as soon as this kind of a lot of these travel restrictions and stuff like that are all done with, man, I'd love to do some Southwest runs down there. I think I did a video on this a couple of years ago. I did like a 9-day trip where I went all the way down to the southern part of Death Valley, even did part of the Mojave Road and and some really remote places down there. That was really cool, man. I love that southern desert country down there. Yeah, more bug out videos. Logan says, I can do that. This is another really good question. So D. Thomas is asking, Casey, do you get bored or lonely when you're out there for days? And how do you stay occupied mentally? Well, this is a really interesting thing, guys. And this is actually where you all have really helped me out. It's interesting that because for the most part, now that I'm filming almost everything that I experience out there, there's sort of a weird dynamic I've noticed is like, it's almost as if when I'm talking to the camera, like I feel like I'm interacting with you guys. So definitely the filming and producing the videos has made it seem, has definitely taken away that bit of loneliness that can creep in sometimes out there. And before I ever filmed my trips, a lot of times, like for the most part, the way that I camp, I'm usually working and staying busy, right? So for the most part during the day when I'm exploring, or even when I get to camp and I'm making dinner and getting a fire built and building a fire reflective wall and all that stuff, I don't really notice it. Where it used to get me was like when all the work's done and now, and even like way back before that, we had iPads and iPhones and stuff like that. I don't want to date myself too much, but I was camping and doing stuff back in the day before we had any of that technology. And when the loneliness would creep in was like, especially in the wintertime, when you got all the work done and now it's only like 7 o'clock in the evening and you're going to be up for a couple hours. So what I used to do a lot is I used to go walk. So after I got done with dinner and everything, I would just go walk. And a lot of times when there's a little bit of snow on the ground or the moon's high, you can see pretty good out in the desert. And, and that would just help me occupy my time. But now, honestly, with the filming everything, like that just rarely happens. The other thing I would say about that is even if there's some animal activity around me, like that will help. That makes me feel like I'm kind of in the midst of stuff going on. If I can hear some coyotes howling off in the distance or something like that. You know, there's usually always activity out there. But again, in the wintertime when it gets bitter cold and dark early, really still, there's no animals moving at night, that's when that loneliness can creep in there. But for the most part, it's never really been an issue for me. Definitely not enough of an issue to keep me out of the hills, for sure. Looks like somebody wants me to get a Land Cruiser. I love those things, man. Yeah, so Frank said, for me, you have to be comfortable with yourself. And I would say that is definitely true. There were times in my life when I didn't feel very good about myself, or I had stuff going on to worry about, or stresses or things like that. You know, those are all things that can make it more difficult to be alone out there. Tim is saying venture four-wheel drive is a staple of his YouTube diet. Yeah, I actually met Chris at Northwest Overland a couple of years ago, and didn't get to visit with him a lot, maybe just like 10 minutes or something, but he seemed like a super solid guy, really cool little guy. Now Frank's asking if I saw Bigfoot out there. Well, if I did, I would have got some excellent footage and I would be retired right now. So Jacob's asking if I can do a live video on a trip. I think I have done that once or twice. The problem is a lot of times where I go, the cell phone reception is real sketchy. So look at this. I'm cracking number 2. I'm gonna have to slow down here. So that's usually the big issue for me, is there's just not good enough data signal or reception out there. So Dan, Fat Don is asking any advice for new campers, man, sleeping in a truck bed. Yeah, sleeping in a truck bed is an awesome way to go. So here's one thing that'll really help is get yourself up. The optimal situation is get one of those, and they're not very expensive. You can get one of those inexpensive cots, like from Weimar or something like that, that'll just keep your bed up off of the bed of the truck about this far, and then any kind of a nice foam mat on top of that. It's also nice to elevate yourself just a little bit, and then like when you swing your feet off of the cot, you got a little place to sit and everything. And then if the truck has stake pockets in it, then you can pretty easily make a support in the stake pockets that allows you to stretch a tarp over the roof, or to give yourself a roof over it. So that's what I used to do in my old Chevy. Was I had a couple of supports that I would stick in the stake pockets, and that gave me the ability to stretch a tarp over the bed of the truck up high enough that I could sit up on my cot. But definitely the cot, and put your little food box in there next to you, your little tough box. Use that as a little like bedside table so you can set your drink on it and set your coffee on it in the morning. Yeah, no, truck bed camping can be, I did that for a lot of years, man. I'm probably going to do some more of it when I get Grandpa's truck back. Dutch oven, yeah. You know, I've never really cooked in a Dutch oven. I've had some awesome Dutch oven meals that other people have made, but that's one thing that I've just never really learned how, or I've never had one. I've never experimented around with it. I did quit the Grizz, yeah. Camusfly, Kansas, or is asking me if I quit the Grizzly. I did quit the Grizzly. Yeah, I'm going on. I think I had my last one. Well, I tell everybody that I had COVID. I don't think I really did have COVID, but I got kind of a cold flu thing back in March. it was right at the beginning of when all the COVID stuff was coming out. That's why I would tell everybody that I had COVID. And that was it. That March was that week that I had that flu. I think was the last week that that I was on the Grizz. It took me a couple of months to kick it completely, but I did. Yeah, perfect. So it sounds like he's got steak pockets in there. Oh yeah. So Mike's asking if I still hang out with Primal Outdoors. We don't hang out a lot and we don't necessarily even talk a lot, but we do still occasionally. And we did talk about, we are thinking about getting together. We talked about maybe in December or something like that. We wanted to do a winter trip together this year. So I think we'll end up doing that. Thank you, Andrea. Yeah, man, it was that quitting the Grizz. That was one of the hardest things that I'd ever done. I'd been on some form of that since I was like 16, 17 years old. Okay, so Jamie's asking me what roof rack do you recommend for the Jeep to mount a rooftop tent? So I'm going to be a little bit weak on my answer on this because I really only have personal experience with the one rack, and that is the Rhino Rack backbone system. So I've run that same rack now on both of my JKU Jeeps. And here's what I like about the rack is that it's very lightweight and it's very strong. I like the fact that it just has the 3 Vortex bars. So very streamlined, adds very little weight to the vehicle. And I think about like packing your overland vehicle, like backpacking, like in the backpacking world, like they have a saying, they'll say ounces equal pounds, pounds equal pain, right? And basically what that means is that you shave off weight every place you can. And you can't have that mindset of like, oh, it's fine that this weighs a little bit more, because all those things add up. So I kind of do the same philosophy with my vehicle, right? I try to keep my load out as lightweight as possible and my build out on my Jeep as lightweight as possible. So the Rhino Rack, extremely lightweight and extremely strong. It has a static load rating of like 800 and some pounds or something like that. So great. Now, what I don't like about it, is it does have a tendency to work loose. Now, I haven't heard of a lot of other people having that issue with the Rhino racks. And what I want you guys to understand is I put an insane amount of off-road miles on my vehicle. You guys just, I think there's probably very few people in the country that put as many miles off the pavement on their vehicle as I do. I literally can be like 10, 15 minutes out of town. I can be off pavement and I can stay off pavement for the next 2 days after that. So a lot of miles of washboardy roads, rough roads, things like that. So that may be a problem that I'm experiencing just because of the volume of off-roading that I do. So here's the other thing. It's not that big of a deal. Most of the stuff on it is fairly user-friendly to tighten back down. So every once in a while, I just have to tighten down brackets and relock tight them and stuff like that. But the backbone system itself, the brackets that mount to the Jeep, those are really difficult to get to with your hex head from the bottom from inside the Jeep. And those do come loose occasionally. And basically I have to take the entire top off the Jeep to get to those. So I'm almost thinking that I'm kind of done with the Rhino racks. Great system, really lightweight, but I just don't want that maintenance. Somebody's asking, is my Jeep my primary vehicle? It is for the most part. I do also have that truck, so I kind of switch back and forth between the two of them. You guys have to understand that, like, my day-to-day life, like, I really don't drive very far. My house is like, I don't know, 2 miles from my office or something like that. So for the most part, I'll drive like maybe an average of 5 miles a day or something. So yeah. So my Jeep is my primary driver. I have the truck too. What's up, Odie Slim? Ever try the Walther PPQ? I haven't. I just looked at those, though, the other day. Somebody mentioned them. Might have even been you mentioned them, and I was checking them out. They look pretty interesting. Oh, it looks like there's a Stephen from Madras. Ever venture out around Grizzly? I used to go out around Grizzly Butte all the time. I generally go a little bit further now, but I used to go out there a lot. So Kim's asking, what is my office job? And I know I mentioned this earlier, so just real quick. So I work in planning. So I do both long range and short range land use planning and development review and things like that. Any plans for a Washington State video? Well, I do really like Eastern Washington, the desert country. John Walker says he's got the Ursa Minor J39. Yeah, I've always thought those looked really good. On my first Coyote Works group overlanding trip, a guy had one of those, and it was a pretty cool setup, man. Is my part of Oregon going to become Greater Idaho? Well, if I had anything to do with it, it most certainly would. Yeah, I don't know, man. We got the issue here where I live, which is, I live in the least populated part of the entire state, and unfortunately, all our policy and legislation is all sat by the major population centers in Portland and Eugene, and it's very unfortunate. Got somebody from Redmond on. Jefferson State. I can't believe there's somebody on there that's even heard of that. Any plans in coming closer to the eastern part of the U.S.? I actually went out and visited my buddy Joe out in Franklin, Tennessee. And I met up with Drew Estelle from Bear Solutions. God, this has been not almost 2 years ago, like a year and a half ago out there. And I mainly went out there to do some firearms training, but man, I love the history out in that country. Joe took me touring around, showing me some old like Civil War sites and things like that. And I've always had a desire to go like Arkansas. I'd love to see those eastern hardwood forests back there and everything are just always so cool. I grew up reading about Daniel Boone and Davy Crockett and some of those early explorers back when that was the frontier, back when the Great Smokies and those mountains back in there were the frontier. So yeah, man, I'd love to go back there. Yeah, no guns allowed in Canada. I did actually go moose hunting up in Canada one time, though. That was pretty fun. AK versus AR thoughts. I like them both. I would say I'm definitely more comfortable with the AR. I've shot the AR platforms, plenty. I've shot them definitely much more than I've shot an AK. I have been thinking recently, I haven't owned an AK for a long time. I wish I wouldn't have, but like 15 years ago or something, I had a couple of them and I ended up selling them to a buddy of mine because they just never really shot them. But now I wish I had them. So I've been looking around at some of the AKs out there and been thinking about getting another one. I've been watching a couple of guys on Instagram that run them pretty good. And, I think that's part of the problem is like back in the day when I shot them, we didn't really have a manual of arms really for how to run them good or how to run them really efficiently. So all the controls just seemed backwards and everything. So I kind of stuck with the AR, but I think a guy probably ought to have one. I do still have the single shot shotguns, man. I love those things actually. A lightweight single shot shotgun is still one of my favorite, just for a pure bush gun. Like if I'm out bushcrafting and hiking and just kicking around in the brush, I love a single shot shotgun. Just something about the tradition of it, and it was one of the first guns that I had my run of the woods with when I was growing up. Was a old bolt action 22 rifle and an old single shot 20 gauge shotgun. So I've just loved them ever since I was a little kid. That was the first shotgun my grandpa ever gave me. My JK does not consume oil. It consumes gas like a mother, though, like a thirsty biatch. Yeah, that thing drinks fuel like a no other. I almost can't carry enough extra gas to make some of the trips that I want to do. Any changes to, I'm thinking that's any changes to my AR rig. I like a pretty basic, I mean, for me, LPVO, I really like the low power variable optic and a set of flip ups on it, although more and more so, I'm not even really sure why I run flip ops. I think the quality of the low power variable optics, I mean, they've gotten so durable and so good quality. I actually think it's almost gotten to the point where some of those optics, like some of your aim points and your Leopold Mark 8s and stuff like that, are your Night Forces, even your high-end Vortex and stuff. I think a lot of those optics have now gotten to the point where they're just about as bulletproof and tough as your backup irons are. I mean, I've seen backup irons get cleaned up and dented. I've thought a lot about an extended fuel tank. Yeah, I have thought a lot about a diesel rig. I think ultimately I'd love to go to a diesel. I'm really curious to see how these new diesel JLs do over the long run, how reliable they are and how well they run in really kind of extreme environments. And Gundog, Jim's asking about any interest in going electric in the future like a Rivian. I tell you, man, I think that is some really, really interesting technology. And I think the potential, once they work out kind of the range for those electrics, like the design of that Rivian looks like, I mean, it should be, there's another one that looks pretty impressive too. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but I think, I think there's some real potential for those electric pickup trucks, those electric overlanding rigs. Bear spray works on more than just bears. Yep. Nate Zoinks. If you guys don't follow Nate Zoinks, you should follow him, man. He's been on a couple of trips with me, and he does some pretty cool videos. He's a hell of a photographer, too. He's got a couple of Instagrams you should check out. But his vote is for the diesel JL Gladiator, which is a JT, I think. 25 miles to the gallon. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, some of those Lexuses are just badass vehicles, Land Cruisers. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of good rigs out there. Yeah, guys. Well, I think that's about all I got. Do you have any last questions before I wrap this up? I'm starting to get kind of hungry. I think I need to make myself some dinner. Oh, little Pa said he thinks that he heard that there might be a new Hummer coming out. Yeah, man, Nate, whenever you're, just let me know. We had a hell of a good time on that winter trip we did last year. Got a little bit cold, but that was a good trip, man. Yeah, hit me up. I enjoyed that. It's good to do some shooting out there. Oh, yeah. So Scott's throwing out there that new 3.9 Hemi Jeep was released today. Man, that thing is just going to be a hot rod. So Jacob's asking, when can you expect a new video? So I'm working on one right now. I don't know that I'll get it out before I leave for my trip. So it might be Thanksgiving weekend. I'll do my best. I'll work on it tomorrow. I'll do my best to see if I can get it cranked out for you guys. Something, but yeah. All right, little paw, you guys, well, I appreciate all of you again. Hey, just one last thing before I go. I did want to tell you guys too, we're working on more Coyote Works merchandise, and you guys hopefully all know that the Coyote Works t-shirts and stickers are available at the Lolo Overland Outfitters website. So I did want to tell you guys, I forgot to mention it earlier when I was talking about sponsorships, but I had some people commenting about like disappointed that I think they thought that I wasn't benefiting off of those. So that the way that worked is they did the design work on those and they're selling them through their website, but those definitely are contributing back into my channel. So we did that as a partnership. I mean, those guys have just been awesome to help me out like that. So I do those, that merch sales is the other thing that can really help me out. So merchandise sales at Lolo Overland. The PayPal donate button will be down in the description below this video, as all of my videos. If you throw $1 in there or anything helps, or especially like a recurring dollar, like that's awesome. But here's the thing is if you can't or you don't feel like it, like that's totally okay too, man. I still want you to stick around, enjoy my videos, and hang out. Like I never want my content to be something that has a barrier for entry, man. My thing is like, I just want to share the good time that I have out there with as many people as I can. I want the people that enjoy it to be able to watch it, and hopefully along the way, I'll inspire a few people to get out there or maybe to try something new and do it. And, because to me, you know, it's just something it's so enjoyable and so nice. I just want to do my part to encourage everybody to be able to have a little bit of that same kind of feeling I get out there. So need a super chat for live stream. Tin Bender is saying, I don't know what that is. So I'm going to have to. All right. So super chat. I need to look that up and see what that is. Okay. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for chiming in. It's been awesome visiting with you. Really cool to see a bunch of you guys here. If I don't get a chance to see you again, I hope you guys all have an amazing holiday. Get some time with your friends, your family, the people that you love. Hopefully you'll get a little bit of time to go out and do some playing, maybe play in the woods, get in the backcountry, do a little bit of shooting, all of that kind of stuff. And again, man, I wish you guys all stay safe out there. Really appreciate all your comments, and I always look forward to hanging out with you guys. And I'll catch you on the next adventure, guys. Coyote Works out.